Clinton Yates, Emily Kaplan, Frank Isola, Bob Ryan. All right, Bob. Of all the tough shots to win an NBA game, where is Luka's?
I've seen a lot of game-winning buzzer beaters. If that one is in the upper 1 percentile.
Okay. Frank, I got a question for you, too. What were you saying about Porzingis' reaction?
Does he know that it's legal to celebrate?
All right, let's go around the horn.
You can celebrate Luka's shot.
Something up between Porzingis and Luka? That's what you're trying to do.
That relationship is playing out for everyone to see.
Luka called it kind of lucky. I'll call it kind of lukey. I mean, this is what this guy does. And look at the still frame. We're going to freeze it for you right here. You're probably wondering how I got here. That's what he said. Bob, we'll start with you. The last shot Mount Rushmore, or the lucky or good debate, or just what Luka does at ends of games. What are we talking about here, Mr. Ryan? The floor is yours.
I was properly chastised last spring for tweeting that, quote, he takes my breath away, unquote. That's a bit much. But the guy is special. That shot right there, anybody can get lucky. Funny how lucky he gets so often. He's already established himself as one of the great clutch shooters in the history of the game in only his third year. The guy is special. There's a glow about him. There's something different about him. Appreciate him, folks, while you got him. He's wonderful.
Frank Isola, were you glowing when Luka hit that shot last night?
Now, that was a brilliant shot. You have Rick Carlisle, who played with Larry Bird. He invoked the name of Larry Bird, and Bird has made a shot like that before in his career. I'll tell you what, though, you go to the losing locker room, Grayson Allen, an 88% free throw shooter. If he makes both, there is no Luka Doncic shot. If you make one, at least you go to overtime. And then Dylan Brooks is a great defender. He backed off and he said, Luka,
Wait, listen to Frank Isola here. This isn't about Grayson Allen missing free throws. It's not. Yes, we know the mathematics here. Emily Kaplan, the shot from Luka. What are we talking about here?
Well, he said it was lucky, it was a little bit fluky, but I think what we all need to accept is, no matter what with the shot, Luka is one of the best, if not the best in the league at doing it by himself. According to Kirk Goldsberry, only Giannis, Steph, and Zion have been more efficient on unassisted shots this year, but Luka has taken more than 300 more attempts in all of them. And what's crazy about all of that is the shot we just saw and we're talking about wouldn't even count for that because the official scorer gave an assist on it.
And Clinton Yates, what are we talking historically on Luka, or just in that moment? What are you thinking?
I think what all my colleagues are trying to say is an old NBA adage, which is that it is fantastic, and this man is worth the price of admission very plainly when it comes to the NBA. Every single time he takes the court, you never know for all the minutes whether or not right up until the end this guy's going to win it, and it was fantastic. There was a luck element to this, though, which was not just the shot. It was the fact that he got his foot down behind the line when he was on that kind of a run to hit the point required to actually win the game. That was amazing. Luka is tremendous. I would give my hard-earned dollars to watch that man play basketball in a building with other humans.
Okay, you can. You know, no one's saying you have to go to every game with a press pass, Clinton Yates. Rick Carlisle bringing up Larry Bird, Bob Ryan. I defer to you once again. Historically, what are we talking about with the Mount Rushmore of guys who hit shots like this to win games?
It's not the first time those two names have been linked, by the way, even this year. I once saw Bird, we all once saw Bird make a basket from behind the basket over the coming out from almost out of bounds. It's only the special guys do this. By the way, I'm trying to digest. He got an assist. Tells you all you need to know about the inflated assist totals in this day and age. That's ridiculous.
Frank, I saw the last word.
And remember, Tony, Luka had complained about this whole idea of the play-in tournament. Okay. That game last night moves him a little bit closer to sixth place. You want to avoid the play-in tournament? Keep winning.
See, Frank, this is a thing for you, right? Luka, and you use the word complained because you say he complains too much to referees, which, although everybody in the NBA does that, but you bring up the word after he made a very rational discussion about what the play-in is here. But after everything you see...
Well, his owner agreed to it. His owner agreed to it. And then his owner came out to support his party and said, yeah, we probably shouldn't have done that. Then why'd you agree to it? Come on.
Not really going well for you today, Mr. Isola. We're going to move on. NBA news of the afternoon. LaMarcus Aldridge announcing his retirement. He's been diagnosed with an irregular heartbeat. Brooklyn just made the move to pick him up, and now that move is nixed. Last night, Brooklyn, of course, without Aldridge and Griffin and Harden and Durant, and nearly came back and nearly got to 120 points with who they had on the floor. Philly had the big lead, kind of stopped playing defense. But Ben Simmons, after the game, said it was an important win for the Sixers because they're going for the 1 seed. Frank Isola, I turn to you. How important do you think the 1 seed is for Philly or for Brooklyn? And who showed you more last night?
Well, you want to get the number 1 seed, you get Game 7 at home. But, Tony, you hear it all the time. This game had playoff-like intensity. That game last night had preseason-like intensity, especially in the first half. Here you are playing for first place, and, everyone was going through the motions. But here's the thing. The game ended on a 27-11 run by the Brooklyn Nets. You had James Harden was back in Brooklyn. Kevin Durant is on the bench in street clothes. And Kyrie Irving came out of the game with 8:38 to go. Yes, the Nets lost the game, but for Philadelphia, you didn't play Durant this year. You only played Harden once. You only played Kyrie once. If they meet in the playoffs, good luck.
Frank, let me ask you a second question. Would you have played Durant last night if you're Brooklyn? I know they don't want to play him back-to-backs, but would you have sat him the day before in the afternoon game against Minnesota?
Yeah, no, I wouldn't have done that. No fault of their own. The game in Minnesota was postponed for a day. Remember, he missed over 500 days with the Achilles. This year, he's missed 2 months for the hamstring. Right now, it's about game 1 of the playoffs. It's not about back-to-back for Kevin Durant.
Emily Kaplan.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, firstly, I do think that home court advantage matters for the Sixers because they only have 5 losses at home, which is the second best in the league, and 12 on the road. That's a very big difference. As for the Nets, I would be scared because they don't have an answer for Joel Embiid. He's owned them. He's averaged 30 points and 11 rebounds in 3 games. And the only game that the Nets kind of contained him was the first game. Guess who was guarding him? Jared Allen. Guess who's traded away for the James Harden trade? Jared Allen.
Clinton Yates, on what you saw last night, Philly, Brooklyn.
Well, I would say that the answer for Embiid is the guy that has 2 trophies that are, MVPs of the finals trophies on the bench at home, and he wasn't playing. But overall, I like this from Nash, okay? This is a guy who's kind of mixing it up. We didn't really know what we were going to get from him as a rookie coach. And he's like, I don't need him. I'm figuring out my rotations. You guys can sort it out on your own, and when we get to the playoffs, you'll then know what we have. This is the first time I actually thought that this guy was pressing real buttons as an NBA coach for the first time in this league.
And Bob Ryan.
The Nets aren't a basketball team yet. They're a lab experiment, and we'll never know until they get to the playoffs if it's going to be even fulfilled because they will have played so few games together. Their whole goal is to get to the playoffs intact, healthy, and then hope that they can figure it and play a little defense. So we all know. No, there's no mystery here. We know what they are or what they aren't, and we know that they're hoping to get everything together down the road. It's not about now.
Frank, you made that face when Bob said lab experiment. What are you thinking?
Well, they played 7 games together. They're 5-2. One of those games was when Kevin Durant was pulled off the court at halftime because of COVID protocol in a game that they had against Toronto. They're great players. Here's what Steve Nash is wondering. Man, late in the game, do I go to Kyrie Irving, who's won a championship, James Harden has been an MVP, or Kevin Durant, a 2-time Finals MVP? Oh, all the worries that poor Steve Nash has trying to put this team together. Don't worry, Bob. They'll be fine.
All right. We've been Horn. We'll move on. One more story here. WNBA draft tonight. Also known as the Dallas Wings draft. Dallas drafts 1, 2, and 5. And up until yesterday, they also had number 7, but they traded that one away. And they had 3 first-round picks last year. Wow. So this year, no Asia Wilson, number 1. No Sabrina Ionescu, number 1. And no Paige Beckers or Caitlin Clark because the WNBA does not allow one and done. And actually, neither will even be eligible next year. So first, let's ask about that, Emily. Do you find yourself thinking the WNBA should consider changing their entry rules?
When it comes to women's sports, we're always having the chicken or the egg conversation. Is there less visibility because it's not as popular? Or is it not as popular because there's less visibility? And for me, it always comes down to infrastructure. If we level the infrastructure on men's and women's sports, what would we see their true value? And part of that infrastructure is career earnings. Like, we don't want to limit people in how much they can potentially get in marketing and opportunity. So what I don't understand here is why a league that's theoretically supposed to be growing the game of basketball is unnecessarily holding women back. It just doesn't make sense.
Clinton Yates.
Totally agree. It's not just about the competitive nature of the WNBA. It's about the overall fairness factor. We're talking about a league in which champions oftentimes, and particularly in the case of the Mystics, couldn't even celebrate with their own cities because they had to get on a plane to go fly elsewhere to play basketball in another place to make the money that they're going to make. So overall, to me, if you're killing your own product, never mind what is something we all understand as just not necessary, it doesn't make sense. Now, that being said, I mean, we're all looking forward to the draft tonight, but yeah, it's about time to get this together, especially coming off of a year in 2020 when it was the most anticipated year of the WNBA's history, and it didn't happen. This is a sensible change to your rules in order to make sure that people are still following whom they know are the best players on earth.
But back to not allowing one and done, it would be the case for Beckers and Caitlin Clark, but also just even a second-year player to go. Are you saying it's killing the game, Clinton Yates? Is that the word, the phrase you
I'm
used?
not saying it's killing the game, but what I'm saying is that it's a slow burn in terms of the fact that if the most popular players cannot hit the iron while it's hot and get to the league that you're trying to develop the most, what sense does it make? It's not a viable option for every single college player to jump after freshman or sophomore year anyway. So why not allow those that can do it to do it?
Yeah, we don't even know if Beckers or Clark would want to go pro after their first year. Bob Ryan, I'll bring you in here.
I think that there's a simple matter of equality here. The fact is that the NBA should be allowing them to come when they're ready out of high school if they want, and then they, and WNBA should be doing the same thing. I just think it's as simple as that. I think the difference that right now, though, in terms of what would happen to young ladies coming out early is the fact that unlike the NBA, where you've got a G League and you've got viable support systems, there's no such thing that I know of in women's basketball. But how many would really want to risk that? Only the elite, and we've got two elite that we're talking about here right now that would definitely be high picks, if not the top two in the draft this year.
Well, you did mention two, and you used a word that's banned on the show twice, so that's going to be a multiple deduction for Mr. Ryan there. Keep up with us, Bob. That word has not been allowed for at least the last 2 years. Frank Isola, how about you on this draft?
But I do agree with the Hall of Famer from Boston. If they want to come out of high school, I have no problem with that. But when Zion Williamson comes out of Duke after 1 year, he's going to make more money in the league. There's a financial windfall in terms of endorsements. Could Paige Beckers get that? Perhaps. But here's the thing, too, about the WNBA. The college game, which is very good, markets the players over 4 years. So when Sue Bird comes into the league and Maya Moore, we know all these players. We've been watching them for 4 years. So to me, it actually helps the league. This has been a complaint for the NBA. It might not be good for the players because they want to make money right away. I have no problem. From high school, they should be allowed to play in the league. But for the league, I think it definitely helps them if they stay there 3-4 years.
3 in the top 5 this year, 6 first-round picks in the last 2. I can't get over the Dallas Wings situation. How much pressure is on? It was as much pressure as there was on Isola when he was in negative, but he's brought it back. So Charlie Collier is number 1, Awak Kewer number 2, and then it's wide open in this draft. We'll be back in 2 minutes.
Love to see it fit.
D.D. Richards to Brooklyn.
Socks on up. His stirrup situation was tremendous. He gives the guy a pedicure that ends the perfecto. And overall, for the Chi Sox, this has been a great couple months. They've had 2 no-nos in a couple different, situations, 2 different seasons. We love this. He's chilling after. It's a great moment in baseball.
Are you all for the no-hitter being a big deal, Clinton? Or are you thinking it's something that's so random you can't celebrate it?
I'm sort of half and half on it. If you're in the building, a no-no is a huge deal. Otherwise, it's more circumstantial and consequent, and sort of what happens.
There's no being half and half here. Emily Kaplan, what are you buying or what are you selling from the no-hitter?
I also want to buy everything. This is the first guy in MLB history to throw a no-hitter within 2 years of getting a Tommy John. He hit 99 in the 9th inning, which is his fastest pitch since 5 years, and he did it with a rookie catcher. This was a very cool moment.
Frank Isola.
No-hitters are awesome. I covered Darryl Kyle's no-hitter. It was incredible. I mean, I was a 15-year-old intern at the time. By the way, Rodon, in 93 career starts, had never had a shutout in his career, never recorded an out in the 9th inning. Come on, that's an amazing thing that he did last night.
And Mr. Bob Ryan.
More often than not, a no-hitter involves at least one big defensive play, one catch-your-breath moment. And, of course, what Abreu did, my favorite play in baseball was somebody's first baseman sliding in the first ahead of the runner. And so that was my favorite moment.
Frank, you mentioned this before. It's one of these absurd plays, right? You have a runner running down the line, diving in one way, and you have the first baseman
a head-first slide and a regular slide, and he's out by a step. Good call by the umpire.
We'll move on. Another baseball story. MLB is going to have the Atlantic League try some changes out, all right? You ready for these changes? Move the mound and rubber back 1 foot. So 61 feet, 6 inches for pitchers. And another change would be you lose your DH when you take out your starting pitcher. Emily, let's start with 61 feet 6 inches. Buy or sell that change?
I'm selling a lot about this. Rich Hill came out and said this is endangering a lot of pitchers' health and they don't get a say in it. And it's wild that they're trying to do this on August 3rd, halfway through the season. You don't just change your rules halfway through the season and don't get people to prepare. Tony, you don't judge us differently 6 months into the year than you do in the beginning of the year.
I'm going to plead the fifth on that one. Okay. And how about you, Frank Isola?
Sometimes I think the mound is too close when when somebody lines one back to the pitcher. Here would be my thing. What about lowering the mound maybe to cut down on some strikeouts and things like that? I don't like the idea. To me, you're messing with the game too much by doing that. I don't want to see MLB adopt this.
Bob Ryan, 61 feet 6 inches.
In 1893, baseball moved the mound back 5 feet in response to a crisis. Crisis was there were too many strikeouts. So 128 years later, they're going to try to address it in the same manner. We don't know for sure what the unintended consequence will be, but I understand the concept behind it. And by the way, given the experimental nature of that league, I support it.
Oh, okay. I thought you were going the other way when you were saying it was 130 years that they've been doing it from the same distance. Clinton Yates, how about you?
I'm okay with this in one regard. The Atlantic League is a league that is experimental by choice. They're the ones that decided to let people run the first on drop balls. As the only panelist here that's actually been to an Atlantic League game to cover that situation, I can tell you that. But overall, to me, the DH situation is more important than that is of the mound. 60 feet 6 inches is the most sacred number in baseball as far as I'm concerned. Changing that is just a little too much for me.
Well, then talk to me about the DH. I think it is a big deal.
I like the DH. You know my theory on the DH? It should be an option for the home team every single game and or series. This gets you closer to some level of strategy that involves the actual game, not just a concept of whether or not pitchers should be hitting.
All right, then let me hit for you in Showdown if you like it so much. I'll be your DH.
No thanks, you can't hit, Frank.
Frank, you did a wonderful job just getting back to the land of the living here.
Frank,
Yeah.
Frank.
Isola's done. Mr. Ryan, thank you today. Yates, Kaplan, Showdown in 2 minutes. The quarters yesterday. He wanted back in to take a run at Klay Thompson's record of 14 threes in a game, but couldn't get there. He had 25 points in the third quarter last night, which again, Klay Thompson holds the record for most points in a quarter, 37. We just had a last shot debate. Here's the hot hand debate. Klay has all the records right now. If you had to take one who finished with the records, Clinton, Steph, or Klay?
I will take Wardell Stephen Curry, the only human in the history of the NBA to win the MVP award unanimously who changed the game. I'm going with Curry.
Emily Kaplan?
I will go Klay just to be controversial. I would say that Steph has had 29 three-pointers in the last 3 games, which is the most in 3-game span, but hasn't hit as many as he needs to.
Picking Steph, you don't have to apologize for picking Steph, but it's not controversial to say Klay Thompson, who has the records now, the 37 and a quarter. I mean, Steph was untouchable last night, and he still needed 12 more points to catch Klay. Wow. We'll move on. Showdown 2. This was an ESPN poll. Did you see this? 101 media members asked for their MVP, top 5 in the NBA. Jokic running away with it, according to Tim Bontemps. Let the good times roll, Emily. Is Jokic a lock at this point?
Yeah, because it's been the most available player award. We're talking about LeBron as MVP. He gets injured. It was Durant injured, Embiid injured, Harden injured. At least he's here.
Quinn?
Every year we come up with a reason to give a different person the award in the NBA. Value in this case is Jokic's. He deserves it. He's going to win it.
I guess one more showdown to maybe decide this one. It's the Justin Turner home run, which sprayed nachos and nacho cheese all over the individual who caught it. But you got a replacement nacho and Dodgers World Series hoodie as gifts. And then your buddy dipping his chip in your jacket cheese. All right, as one does, I guess. Clinton, what's the best part?
The best part about this is that this guy went for the grab and he didn't bring his glove to the yard. Terrible mechanics, but whatever. You went viral, dude, and you got to talk to Justin Turner. That's a win overall.
On one hand, this could be Justin Turner's second super spreader event in a year, but the other, the dipping of the cheese off of Buddy's uniform, that's exactly the unity our country needs right now.
L.
It's funny, Emily, but you're not getting a point for it. FaceTime, Clinton Yates.
Today is Jackie Robinson Day in Major League Baseball, and there's a story I'd like to tell you all about that happened before he actually ever played for the Brooklyn Dodgers. For those who don't know, he played for the Montreal Royals when he was in the International League. In his first game in New Jersey, he hit a yam in that game, and somebody was on deck. That person's name was George Shuba. He shook his hand. It's an incredible moment. There's a story about it on The Undefeated that you can check out, and I'll tell you all about the statue they're building in his hometown of Youngstown, Ohio. Happy Jackie Robinson Day, everybody.